Hi, everybody. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary, and I'm here today with NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary. I couldn't be more pleased to announce that as of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule. Last year, the Biden administration urged healthy children to get yet another COVID shot despite the lack of any clinical data to support the repeat booster strategy in children.
That ends today. It's common sense and it's good science.
There's no evidence healthy kids need it today, and most countries have stopped recommending it for children.
We're now one step closer to realizing President Trump's promise to make America healthy again.
Uncle Trump has one shot, one opportunity to stop the death of America. One moment with the freedom of interest, but with DC written, yo. Vivek's palms are sweaty, his big job gets heavy. There's curry on his sweater already, mom's tandoori. He's nervous, but DOD is getting order ready to drop bombs, cause he don't got the fat with Betty. He goes down, DC crowd cries so loud. He opens his mouth, the words you find just come out. They choking now, we the people joking now. The clock's run out, time's up, overbound. Snap back, DOD, Elon, they spin gravity. Oh, grab your bureaucracy, choke, he's so ready. No boast, make it look easy. No, he works at it, he knows he'll push him in. Gotta keep him alive. Stand together, start World War III, make America great again.
Good day, Patriots. Welcome to another episode of the MAGA Kingdom Report. I'm your co-host, Anastasia Theodoropoulos, and I'm here with Dr. Richard Panzer, my partner in crime. Today, we're going to be talking about some really exciting things that still, we have to deal with. And it all has to do with Maha and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and what really happened with COVID, because we can't never forget to go through that again. But before we get the show started, we have a great sponsor, which is Kerr Financial Group. And they have some great financial advice. Richard, would you like some financial advice?
I could use a little bit, yes.
I think us patriots, we're living in the golden age, and I think we need to know what to do with the extra nickel in our pockets to make it into a quarter. So please watch to the end of the show for more information from Jeffrey Kerr, who's the president of Kerr Financials. So what do you got for us, Richard?
Okay, I hate to be the bearer of disappointing news, but but there's new developments with the effects of the COVID vaccine that our government told us was perfectly safe and perfectly effective, but it seems like that's not
You
true.
mean the government lied to us?
Yeah, I'm sorry to break it to you, but the answer is yes. Okay. Let me give you a few examples. So we have a fully vaccinated Indian actress who promoted the shots to millions of her fans dies at age 42 from cardiac arrest. Okay, so if we scroll down on this page here, you'll see she's a beautiful actress, and the video is showing her. This is how many years ago? Shafali Jarwala. And she said, finally got my first dose, protect yourself, protect others too. Getting vaccinated is the only way to beat COVID-19. And that was the propaganda, and now she's dead at age 42.
And a gorgeous woman, healthy.
Yeah.
She looked like she was 18
Yeah.
and never had an issue before, and boom, it happens. And this is all way too common.
Absolutely. Now, we have beautiful actress, but most people don't die from cardiac arrest at 42, but now that is happening. All right, next article. Stanford drops bombshell, COVID jabs tied to surge in thyroid eye disease that can cause blindness. And the scientists at Stanford point to a shocking increase in thyroid eye disease, a disfiguring autoimmune condition that can lead to blindness, all linked to the COVID mRNA vaccines. So that's another adverse effect that Pfizer Corporation and our government forgot to tell us about.
And I have a friend in New York who went through this,
Yeah.
and she almost went completely blind. So this is not uncommon, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, and the next article I just want to point to, fibrous clots found in young children of COVID-vaccinated mothers. Prion-like amyloid fibrils were found in the blood of chronically ill children who had been exposed to Pfizer's mRNA injections in utero. We are potentially looking at a generational health crisis. So they were exposed while their mother was pregnant. The government said pregnant women should get the COVID vax. And if they didn't do so, they were
Risking their life and their baby's life.
Exactly. But now we find out about these prion-like amyloid fibrils in the blood of these children. So, I have to say my faith in the our health, there are wonderful doctors out there.
Your whole family's in the medical field.
Yeah, exactly. I believe they want to do the right thing. They want to save lives, but there's a dark side that I was not aware of. So, all right. And then now we have the RFK talking in this video about a study done of the long-term effects of the Pfizer COVID vaccine with a 23% higher death rate from all causes at the end of the study. So let's watch the video.
There's 25% of Americans who believe that they know somebody who was killed by a COVID vaccine.
Killed?
Killed. 25% of Americans, 52% of Americans believe that the vaccines are causing injuries, including death. 52%. Oh, if you look at the clinical trial studies, the actual studies that were done, that were released of the Pfizer vaccine, Moderna has not released it. If you look at the Pfizer vaccine, there were 22,000 people in the placebo group, 22,000 people who got the actual vaccine. And the people who got the vaccine had a 23% higher death rate from all causes at the end of that study.
But that could not be the disease itself?
No, well,
because we know that
if it is, then the vaccine doesn't work, does it?
Well, it's certainly.
Okay, that's enough. Yeah. So, I'd like to point out that the people who were not vaccinated, many of them were infected with COVID-19, but they had a lower death rate, than the people who got.
They survived it.
They survived it. I was pretty sick when I got COVID. I felt like SHIT for about 2 weeks, and then I recovered.
Stronger than ever.
Yes. All right, and the next we have a report about the PCR tests.
And I'm glad we're bringing this up.
Yeah.
Because the rates were so high of tests of positive when you're like, is this a cold? Is this the flu? Right. Not everyone had horrific side effects, but you were told, oh, you're going through COVID.
Right.
Let's find out why.
Yeah, let's play this.
You're familiar with the testing. That's the nasal swab. They take this big 4 to 6 inch swab, they jam it down your nose. According to PhD Nobel Prize winning scientist Carrie Mullis, who's the doctor that created the PCR test, if you blow that PCR sample size up big enough, you can see almost anything on any body.
And with PCR, if you do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody.
Now, in his own words, the PCR test should never be used to diagnose disease. Let me repeat that. The man who created the PCR test said this test should never be used to diagnose disease. It is simply a tool to find if there's even a fragment of an illness inside of somebody.
The big laboratories in the United States and across the globe, and I know because I've spoken to almost all of them, the PCR testing is done at 37 to 45 amplifications, which is going to cause a 97% false positive or more.
Even Anthony Fauci said himself that anything you find beyond 33 cycles in a PCR test, meaning you've amplified it 33 times, probably is not infectious material.
If somebody does come in with 37, 38, even 36, you got to say, it's just dead nucleotides, period.
Yet when we looked in the United States of America at everybody using all of the testing facilities, and New York Times did this too, all the testing facilities that were doing PCR tests, they were running them for 45 cycles.
The New York Times even put out a story, and I'm going to quote a little bit of what they said. There's glitches in the PCR test. 90% of the tests were not indicative of the active illness.
So what would happen to case numbers if labs cut back to 30? At one New York lab, it resulted in a 63% case reduction. When a Massachusetts lab did the same, almost 90% of their cases disappeared. In 2007, PCR tests caused a pseudo-epidemic for whooping cough at a hospital in New Hampshire. 100% of the results were false positives.
Guys like Fauci get up there and start talking. He doesn't know anything really about anything, and I'd say that to his face. Nothing. Tony Fauci does not mind going on television in front of the people that pay his salary and lie directly into the camera.
And Mr. Mullis, who came up with the PCR test, died during COVID at the end, but not because of that, but passed away. So we cannot get any more information, but what he left in his interviews and in his writings are very important for the people to know.
This is a very important issue. We trust scientists. In our culture, scientists are the high priests of truth, right? But we can see more and more and more now that just fudging the testing parameters, you can come out with false positives, people who don't have COVID, and who. This was used to scare people. This was used as propaganda to scare the American people into giving up their civil liberties. We locked down almost the entire nation, and we kept our kids out of school for more than a year, some states almost 2 years, and we damaged them. Many of them are not recovering from their learning deficit. Businesses went bankrupt. And now we're seeing all these illnesses.
Well, here's the good news. When the COVID rates were going so high because of the PCR test with the false positives, guess what was hitting almost zero? Influenza rates.
Yeah,
they disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. So we need to realize that science has been, I would say, corrupted. And
certainly
manipulated, and I think the dollar sign is maybe the main, not truth, but maybe the dollar sign is what they're actually seeking for, and in collusion with the government. And we need to, anyway, that's a whole other topic. I mean, the laws, in 1986, Congress passed a law that gave drug companies immunity for vaccines, blanket immunity, and we're seeing the results.
Absolutely, there has to be accountability in the end, and that's something also that that RFK Jr. is working on, which is reversing that and accountability.
Okay, and according to this report from the Next News, the big pharma has a secret kill list. And RFK Jr. is target number 1. Okay, this is a little bit sensational, but let's take a look. Sounds good.
Big Pharma's war on RFK now exposed. A leaked memo from Bio, Pfizer, Merck, and Novavax reveals a covert $2 million campaign to sabotage RFK Jr. by September. This is not science, it's psychological warfare, influence ops, and institutional capture. The plot to get RFK now exposed. Keep reading because it is a coup. Strategic coup. Leaked bio minutes show their vaccine policy steering committee met April 3rd to plan RFK Jr.'s removal. Their words, it's time to go to the Hill and lobby that it is time for RFK Jr. to go. So this is a lobbying effort. But they have a massive plan, and they have a lot of politicians in their pocket already. Here is just a snapshot of the meeting minutes. You can read it in detail. Go to X, but we're going to dive deeper. Follow the money. Bio is dumping half of its $4 million reserve, $2 million, into a manipulative DC campaign titled Why We Vaccinate. It's not to inform, it's to control. And their goal is to influence the movable middle through fear-based messaging. Their words inspire and frighten. This is the pharma psyop. The surrogates. Bio plans to co-opt conservatives to make the attacks look bipartisan. The named allies, Dr. Oz, Senator Bill Cassidy, Richard Burr, AEI, and Oz as White House health voice of reason. The strategy, divide Macri and Trump insiders versus RFK Jr., and they want to confuse the base. Fear of reform. RFK Jr.'s Kennedy Bar demands raw data, liability restoration, and placebo trials. Bio calls that a threat to their business model. Why? Because it would end the emergency shortcuts that have been abused since Warp Speed. This is about power and not safety. The capital collapse of the industry. Vaxcyte's COO says investors are sitting out for 6 to 9 months because of Kennedy's unpredictability. They admit it. The market fears transparency. Bio's panic. Reform means no more guaranteed profits on untested products. Language hijack. Bio wants to swap words like protect and defend with streamline and optimize. Translation, less oversight. Transparency becomes PR spin. Efficiency means dodging safety rules. They're laundering meaning to deceive you. Propaganda by proxy. No direct debate, no public rebuttal, just a flood of industry-paid surrogate voices, controlled experts, think tanks, and influencers. The memo lays it bare. Distract the public, ignore RFK's policies, and erase his credibility. The memo. Dangerous stuff. September's D-Day for them. Why the rush? Because in September, schools reopen, Congress reconvenes, FDA budgets are reviewed, fall narrative cycle begins, and Bio fears that Kennedy's reform message will dominate the discourse, so they must preempt the truth. It is global. Bio's memo fits a wider scheme: ESG score enforcement, WHO treaty harmonization, and AI censorship to suppress dissent. This is not just domestic meddling, it is transnational efforts to kill sovereignty and science. AEI's Scott Gottlieb calls RFK's Maha platform a cover for anti-vaxxers, but they don't argue facts. They deny your right to question. Bio fears the public awakening, not because RFK is wrong, but because he's exposing the regime. It's truth versus tyranny. It's not about Kennedy. It's about whether medicine serves the people or Pfizer's shareholders. Bio's smear campaign is not strength. It is a confession. They can't win with truth, so they weaponize fear, language, and fake consent. The memo is real, and the coup is active. Now, Congress is back, so tell your senators that you know about the biopharma scheme. Demand they keep RFK Jr. in office to make America healthy again. Of course,
Richard, thank God for whistleblowers. Because if that document, which was exposed, showing that Big Pharma was complicit in trying to use lobbyists, and I can't stand lobbyists. Okay, that should be illegal in itself. Having certain individuals who represent Big Pharma or oil or whatever it is going into your capital, meeting with your senators or House representatives and cutting deals with them should be illegal. It just isn't right, but that's for another show. But creating this plan to take down Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Because they're losing money and also they're being forced into accountability. If you look at their rates of profit, they've been at a standstill or their profits have been dropping because they're being forced now to be able to provide testing and to show documentations of safety. Who'd have thunk it? That would be a problem.
Well, I mean, that's very unfair to the pharmaceutical companies. They should be able to sell untested products that are mandated by the Food and Drug Administration.
You get a little death.
I mean, you know, if your kid dies or has problems, no, this is insane.
Well, it could be coincidence, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I could see why they're afraid of RFK Jr. because he really cares about this issue. And he's actually just saying we just need to have legitimate testing. We just want to see what the effect of the vaccine is compared to a saline solution injection, not some other vaccine, a true placebo. We just want to see what the effects are long term.
Well, also, what this situation is unveiling, which is something even worse than even that. So that's one part of the problem.
Yeah.
The other part of the problem is this, that they're so confident that they could send their lobbyists in, which is $2 million, right? And go in and influence Republicans who hold office, other people who are in the administration who carry weight. What does that tell you? That tells you they've been doing this a lot for them to have the audacity to think that they can get away with it. And if it wasn't for this whistleblower, we might have someone come out, like a Dr. Ross, who's well respected and well known, and say something to the contrary. And then what would the media do with that? They would say, look at the Republican Party, look at the Conservative Party. They can't get their act together. They don't know what they're talking about, and there's infighting. That would be good. That would not be good for anyone.
And the other issue is the amount of advertising dollars given to all the news networks, right? They're able to advertise on TV. I mean, I could sing you the Ozempic jingle if you want. I mean, I've heard it so many times. All right, but there's huge money going into Fox News, CNN, and all of them. And the media, the Mockingbird media, have been parroting propaganda, fear propaganda to the American public. And thank God we have the hope of shutting this down.
And it's not anti-vax. It's actually pro-truth. And everyone should be for pro-truth.
Absolutely.
What do we get next?
That's the show.
Oh my gosh. So stay tuned. That's what we have next. Because this is an ongoing topic that has to be addressed if we are to continue humanity and society as we know it, Richard.
Yes.
So, listen, we're all humans. We can all make a mistake and take something that makes us sick. Work with professionals that you know who can help you. Do your own research and make sure to stay involved on the subject.
Right. I mean, I could talk about the increased miscarriage rates for pregnant women who couldn't deliver their child, but I'm not going to.
There's a lot of things we could talk about. And you know what? A lot of the folks out there, you've lived it. You've had your own experiences. And we know that you know what's going on. Thank you for your support.
Hi, this is Jeffrey Kurt Financial Group. Today is Monday, July 28, 2025, and a very busy week ahead of us, but also it was a busy week last week. To highlight a couple of things, first of all, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ both closed Friday at record highs. The Dow's about a little over 100 points away from a record high, and the S&P was up every day last week and is up 7 out of the last 8 trading days. So again, a lot of momentum, and the stocks continue to move higher. And also, over the weekend we had the trade deal with the European Union, which again kind of makes the August 1 deadline, which is this Friday, irrelevant. So I don't know, a lot of pressure's off now, a lot of uncertainty with a big trading partner, the European Union. And so, those things from last week, again, help propel the stock market to new highs where we start this week. Looking forward, got a lot going on this week. A lot of earnings, and FOMC is on Wednesday. That's the Fed interest rate decision. Unlikely to do anything, but again, with everything in a dialogue going back and forth between the Fed and the White House, it'll be closely watched as usual. PCI, the inflation gauge is coming out. And then we also have PMI, which is the Purchasing Managers Index, which again is a gauge. If it's above 50 on the index, it's an expanding economy. We have been below 50 recently, so we'll see. And the big news again on Friday will be the July jobs data. That's coming out. Even though July ends on Thursday, they're somehow getting it done for Friday morning, with the jobs data coming out on Friday morning and could move stocks. A lot of earnings coming out this week. We've got the 4 of the Mag 7. We've got Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft. So those could move markets too. And also Exxon, Chevron, MasterCard, Visa, some financials, some industrials. So a lot of earnings coming out this week. It is going to be a busy week. In total and in summary, I kind of think, the markets, aren't poised for a drop just yet, although it could be, any time given a news item. And I do think there's just a lot of complacency in the stock market. That the volatility numbers are low. There's not much danger being priced in the hedging area, and those type of things don't show any kind of worry. And so at some point I think that reverses, but for now the stock market's on an upward trend, and may continue this week, driven by some of the news items. We got a lot of them this week. We'll be back on Wednesday. Thank you for listening. Talk to you then. Goodbye.